He said he killed her. He knew things no one else should have known. The police believed him. But then, 2 days later, she walked into a diner. Alive, disoriented, terrified. So if she wasn't dead, why did he confess? And who had been keeping her hidden all that time? This wasn't just a twisted lie. It was something darker, something planned. Summer Ridge, Oregon. Population, just under 9,000. Nestled between pine-covered hills and washed-out railway tracks. It's the kind of place where time feels slower. People wave at stop signs. The coffee shop knows your order before you walk in. And almost everyone knows everyone else, or thinks they do. Emily Hart was a staple in that world. She was 32, taught 4th grade at Lincoln Elementary, sang alto in the church choir, volunteered at the local library on Thursdays, and called her mom every Sunday. People loved her. She was one of those people that made you feel like you mattered, even in a 5-second conversation. So when she disappeared on a rainy Tuesday afternoon in March, the town unraveled. She had been seen leaving the school parking lot around 3:47 p.m. A co-worker remembered seeing her unlock her car, wave goodbye, and drive off. But that was the last time anyone saw her. By morning, her car was found 2 blocks from the school, door ajar, purse still on the seat. Her phone was gone. So was she. No sign of a struggle. No witnesses. No surveillance footage that showed anything useful. At first, people assumed she'd been abducted, maybe even left on her own. But as hours turned to days, hope faded into fear. And then something even stranger happened. His name was Derek Tolan, 24 years old, lived alone, worked as a part-time mechanic. Quiet, awkward, mostly kept to himself. A few shoplifting charges. Some minor trouble as a teen, but nothing violent. He was the kind of guy who didn't raise eyebrows until he did. On March 9th, 2 days after Emily's disappearance, Derek walked into the Summer Ridge Police Department and said 5 words that changed everything. "I killed Emily Hart. I'm sorry." He didn't ask for a lawyer. He didn't resist. He sat down, put his hands in his lap, and started talking. He said he saw her at a gas station 2 nights earlier. Followed her. Watched her park. Waited. Then, he approached her car with a wrench in his hand. He claimed he just wanted to ask for a ride. But she panicked. Screamed. He hit her. Once. Then twice. He said he blacked out. And when he came to, she was on the ground. Not moving. Bleeding. He said he panicked. Dragged her body into the woods off Highway 17. Covered her with branches. Took her phone. And walked home. Police didn't want to believe him at first. It sounded too clean. Too rehearsed. But then he told them where it happened. And they found the scene. The blood. The broken branches. A torn scarf. And her phone smashed. No body. But enough to make them believe. Derek was arrested and charged with second-degree murder. The DA held a press conference. The sheriff said, "We believe we have the person responsible." And the town exhaled. Sad but relieved. Emily Hart was gone. But at least now they thought they had justice. They didn't. March 11th, 6:42 p.m. Rain was falling again in Summer Ridge. At Miller's Diner, just off the highway, the dinner rush had ended. Waitress Josie Monroe was refilling ketchup bottles when the bell above the door jingled. In walked a woman. Soaked. Mud-caked feet. Pale. Eyes wide and unfocused. She sat down at booth 6 and whispered, "Can I use your phone? I think someone tried to kill me." It took Josie a few moments to realize who she was looking at. It was Emily Hart, very much alive. She was taken to the hospital immediately. She had bruises on her wrists and ankles. Signs of restraint. She was dehydrated, disoriented, and in shock. But she was alive. And her first words to police were even more shocking than her appearance. That man, the one they arrested, Derek, he didn't do this. He would never hurt me. Emily didn't remember everything. Her memory was fragmented. She remembered walking to her car after school, then waking up in a dark room, tied to a chair, blindfolded. The air smelled like mildew and gasoline. She never saw her captor's face. He wore a mask or distorted his voice. But he knew things, personal things. Her middle name, her childhood dog, the street she grew up on. He fed her, talked to her, called her by her first name. And then, on the 3rd day, she woke up and the door was unlocked. No one in sight. She ran, hitchhiked, and made it to the diner. But when police showed her Derek's photo, she said no. He was one of my students years ago. He's troubled, but he's not the man who did this. So now the police were faced with two impossible questions. If Derek didn't do it, why did he confess? And if he thought he did it, who was making him believe that? Detectives reopened the search. This time, not just for Emily's captor, but for the reason Derek had confessed in the first place. Was it guilt? Delusion? Manipulation? They started reviewing security footage, tracking the areas around where Emily's car had been found and where Derek claimed to have left the body. And then they saw him. Not Derek, but another man, a blurry figure in a hoodie, dragging something across a backyard. Seen leaving the area in a white Ford Transit van, registered just 2 blocks from Emily's home. The owner? A man named Brandon Mears. Brandon had a history with Emily. He had once worked as a part-time custodian at her school, let go after a complaint. The only teacher who filed a formal report about him? Emily. At the time, it was minor, creepy drawings left in the break room. A locker door scratched with her name. Now, it was starting to look like something far worse. Police obtained a warrant. When they entered Brandon's home, they found a locked basement door. Behind it, a mattress, a bucket, restraints, and on the wall, Emily's old school photo, pinned above a calendar, with March 5th through March 8th circled in red. And on Brandon's computer, audio files, dozens, recordings of a woman crying, talking, pleading. It was Emily, but one of the files wasn't her. It was Derek, being coached. Brandon had convinced Derek he had murdered Emily, fed him details, pressured him to confess, used his vulnerability to create the perfect smokescreen. Because if someone else took the fall, no one would come looking for Brandon. And for 2 days, it worked. Brandon Mears wasn't new to this. He had been obsessed with Emily Hart for nearly a decade. He had kept a box in his attic filled with old school yearbooks, photos he downloaded from her public social media, and even scraps of paper he'd pulled from her garbage. In one notebook, police found pages of handwritten entries. Hundreds of them. Some were letters. Others were disturbing fantasies. One of them read, "She thought she could forget me, but they all remember the ones who vanish." Brandon had tracked her daily routine, work schedule, grocery trips, volunteer hours. He even installed a small GPS tracker underneath her car, a cheap magnetized device he ordered online. The entire abduction had been planned down to the minute. And when it came time to cover it up, he chose Derek, because Brandon knew about Derek's struggles. They had crossed paths at a group therapy session years ago. Derek had opened up about intrusive thoughts, dreams he couldn't explain, memory lapses. To Brandon, Derek wasn't just a scapegoat. He was a tool. Meanwhile, Emily was beginning to recover. Physically, the bruises were healing. But emotionally, she was shattered. In her first full interview, she said, "I kept thinking, how long had he been planning this? How long had I been watched and not known it?" Her story became clearer with time. She remembered a loud humming sound in the basement. It turned out to be a dehumidifier, set on high to mask outside noises. She remembered being forced to answer questions. Personal ones, childhood memories, her time as a teacher. Brandon didn't just want control, he wanted access to her past, her secrets, her fear, and most chilling of all, Emily recalled a moment when her captor told her, "No one's coming. They already think you're dead." In September of that year, Brandon Mears was officially charged with kidnapping, unlawful imprisonment, aggravated assault, psychological torture, attempted murder. The trial lasted 4 weeks. The prosecution called it an elaborate and premeditated psychological attack designed to erase a person without leaving a trace. Derek Tolan was called to the stand. His testimony was emotional and confusing. He still wasn't sure what was real. He said, "I thought I did it. I really thought I did." He made it feel true. Derek wasn't charged with any crimes. Instead, he was transferred to a residential mental health facility, where he remains today. Emily took the stand as well. And when asked if she had anything to say to Brandon, she said, "I don't want you to think of me again. I want to be a stranger to your memory, just like you were to mine." Brandon showed no emotion as she spoke. He was sentenced to life in prison without parole. Emily Hart moved away, changed her last name, started over, far from Summer Ridge. She now works with a nonprofit that supports victims of stalking and coercive control. The diner where she reappeared, Booth 6, is still there. Locals call it the place where a ghost came back to life. As for Summer Ridge, the town never forgot, because this wasn't just a crime, it was a betrayal of the stories we tell ourselves about safety, about trust, about knowing the people around us. In the end, a woman who was buried in headlines walked back into the world barefoot and broken. A man who didn't lay a finger on her nearly lost his freedom because someone else was counting on him to break. And the real monster? He didn't hide in the shadows. He built them himself and waited for the perfect moment to disappear behind someone else's guilt. Emily Hart survived, but not everyone walks out of a basement like that. Not everyone gets to walk back into a diner and be believed. This story isn't just about a false confession. It's about how easy it is to erase someone and how hard it is to come back from that silence. So now I'll leave you with this. What do you think really happened that night? Was Derek just a pawn, or was something even deeper going on? Drop your theories in the comments. We read every one, and if you're still with us, thank you for listening, for thinking, for caring enough to chase the truth, even when it doesn't come easy. We've got more stories coming. Real cases, shocking twists, and voices that still deserve to be heard. Until next time, stay safe, stay sharp, and never assume the story is over just because they say it is.